Hey you guys, welcome to our backyard garden. My name is Leigh. If this is your first time stopping here and you like garden content, please consider subscribing to our channel. And as you watch this video, please give it a thumbs up if you like the information I'm about to give you. I have to tell you, this is going to be a little bit of a heart-to-heart because I just spent 4 hours out here this morning watering this garden by hand. And I punished myself on purpose because I have a method of watering this big garden. It's not the biggest garden in the world. We're not farmers, but you know, you'll joke around and you'll hear me talk about Farmer John, but we're just gardeners. We're just suburban people. And the thing I want to touch on with you today as I walk around, and hopefully I can find an area of shade because I'm dehydrated. I've been working out here for hours, making content. I've been killing bugs, putting them into the cup of death, which I'll attach that video link for you. I've been chasing nuisance birds out of our blueberry patch. Watering everything, just taking care of stuff, deadheading, pruning, all of this sort of work. Now, this is a lot. I am not going to lie to you. We are on a half an acre here in suburban New Jersey. We are in northwestern Burlington County. Now, we are not experienced farmers. We are experienced gardeners, though. We've been gardening here for, this is our 10th summer. So as you follow along in our videos, and hopefully you'll subscribe as you see everything that we're growing, and hopefully it will encourage and motivate you to want to grow not just vegetables, but beautiful flowers that attract pollinators, and plenty of bees and butterflies and hummingbirds, and they're busy doing their thing, and they're capturing pollen and they're taking it back to beehives for miles around. So, you know, as we stand out here and work and we build this garden, we're not getting younger here. I'm an older girl. You know, Farmer John's a little bit younger than me, but you know, we're not really young people anymore. So taking something like this on over the last few years, we wish that we would have done it sooner in life. And you know, there's a thing right now, and I can't overemphasize enough. I am not trying to put anybody down or come down on anybody. I admire everyone who's in this industry, who is teaching people, encouraging people, motivating people to grow something. This work is not easy. But I want you to think about doing it scared. When you do something like this scared, it's okay. You know, here's a saying that I want to talk to you about. When fear is in the driver's seat of your car. So I'm trying to find a shady spot. I'm going to sit down here for a second. I'm going to put the umbrella up so I can have this conversation with you, because I've been meaning to talk about this and I need to make sure I drive this message home appropriately. Okay, there we go. I can't really see you very well. Hopefully this will come through okay. I apologize. I'm filthy. I'm sweating. I have literal dirt all over me. I have bug juice all over me, bugs from the cup of death. But I'm sitting here with one of my beautiful little Thornburns terracottas that will be going in the house because I harvested this, I considered it vine ripened, but it needs a few more days. So I made a video about that this morning, which will have already been out there. So I'll go ahead and attach that video link for you about when to harvest your vine ripened tomatoes. So talking about doing it scared. There's a lot of people right now who are throwing caution to the wind, and they are selling their suburban homes, or they're moving out of apartments, and they want to garden so badly. And the concept of homesteading and harvesting your own meat and your own eggs and growing all of your own food, it's almost like a little fantasy. Some of us have been able to achieve it greater than others. There are those that are extraordinarily successful at it. And wow, when you talk about doing it scared, and I mean, you're like, hey, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to pack my entire family. We're going to live in a camper until we can grow this farm and get it to where we need to be. There is not just one successful person that's doing it. There are many, many, many. And again, I'm not coming down on anybody. That's not my goal, because I admire the results of what's happening. But those successes don't just come to everyone, and they don't come that easily. Now, when we moved in here, the sole purpose was not to become gardeners. Again, it was 10 summers ago. In 2014, we bought this property. We moved from another area just a few miles away, and we only had 1/8 of an acre. It was all house. It was a tiny yard, and it was wonderful, but we couldn't grow anything. And the most important reason that we moved was really so that we could build a habitat for our parrots, as you can see behind me in this big netted structure. Well, you know, prior to that in the other house, we didn't have great light exposure, and I would grow a few things in pots here and there. But, you know, I always thought, wow, it would be great if I could, you know, grow more food in this garden. So when we moved here, we you know, realized that we could grow a small garden. And the first thing that we did was we started some spinach, and we had some big pots that we had by the back door here. And I grew the most delicious tomatoes in this pot, and cucumbers and peppers. It was low key. We had construction going on here in the backyard, but this stuff was thriving. And this land used to be a very, very successful corn farm. And I'm talking acre after acre after acre. This was a huge farmland property. Prior to it being owned by the farmers, this area here was, you know, inhabited by the indigenous of this region, the Lenape, Powhatan native and indigenous people lived here, and William Penn went through this area. This was where the original settlers came through, and they discovered early on that this was very, very fertile land. So that's a whole other history lesson, and that really doesn't have anything to do with doing it scared. But my point is, when we realized what we were dealing with here and what we were gifted in this little patch of land on this half an acre, when we saw volunteer corn coming up, and then we talked to our next door neighbor as we were getting to know him, and he said, you know, I can stand here and look out my back window and remember when I was a kid and I actually worked for the farmer here farming this corn. So, you know, one thing led to another. We started growing, you know, successfully. Tomatoes were growing incredible. But, you know, I thought to myself, another video, again, there was more information that drove us to growing more food. But by 2019, we had a pretty big garden growing back there, and you could see it went from one side of the fence to the other, and now we've expanded it to wrap around the entire yard. You know, I was a little scared when I said, my inner voice is telling me to make this garden really, really big, and that was in 2019. By 2020, when we started to actually pull this off, you want to talk about doing things scared, we were doing it right as COVID was unraveling, and we couldn't get any building material, and we didn't know what was going on, and we wished that we would have started it sooner. So we were scared on multiple levels. And as we started to grow this garden, and I have major back issues, John works full-time outside of the house, I thought to myself, you know, I'm scared I'm going to mess this up. I'm scared that I'm not going to know what I'm doing. I'm scared I'm going to spend money on seeds and dirt and not really like this, and I'm scared that I'm wasting my time, and I'm scared that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared that I'm going to grow this wrong. I'm scared I'm going to put, you know, I was scared. But never, ever in my life would I take all of my money and go off and invest in something that I didn't know what I was doing at that level of fear. Now let me reiterate here. A moment ago, I talked about fear being in the driver's seat of your life. In the past, I was a successful salesperson, and I went through very intensive sales education. And one of the things they talked to us about in school was learning about conquering your fears so that you could become a better salesperson. And they talked about fear being in the driver's seat of your life. And they said, if you were in your car with fear, and fear was the driver, you would never leave your parking spot. But when fear is the passenger in your vehicle, it stops you from doing things like driving through intersections against a red light. It stops you from, you know, speeding down the road in a 10-mile-an-hour zone. It stops you from doing many things. So fear as the passenger in your vehicle will help you to be a better driver. But if fear is in the driver's seat, like I said, you'll never drive anywhere. You'll just be a passenger at the mercy of fear, and you'll never go anywhere. So sometimes you have to throw some caution to the wind. But, and again, I admire anyone who was able to do it just scared and be successful at it. But I'm speaking to the folks out there who did it scared. They sold their suburban homes. They went off and they bought 10 acres just to realize that they had the worst neighbors in the world who are allowing their animals to roam on the land that they're trying to develop, and they can't get anywhere, and the neighbors are threatening them, or the neighbors are sabotaging this patch of land. And you would think on 10 to 50 acres that you would have some privacy. But the truth is, you just bought land against the devil you didn't know. And now you have to cope with that. And there's people who have spent all of their money trying to just get a driveway onto this land, trying to figure out where they're going to get their soil. you know, just to find out that they can't find water, just to find out that they can't get the right permits for things, just to find out so many things. Or that they have a bunch of kids and their husband works full time and now they've got animals that need to be culled, and they've got crops that need to be watered and harvested, and pest pressure, like on the video I just showed you, with all the pest pressure. I'll attach those videos below for you. Sometimes, you know, doing it scared means you're running into the darkness, and you're running into something that you really don't know what's in there, and you don't know what's on the other side. So when I talk to you about doing it scared, doing it educated, and doing it mindfully, know what you can do, know what you're biting off before you have more than you can chew, because taking something like this on can put you into bankruptcy. Now, I have a financial background. I'll tell you, I do not live in debt. I don't believe in debt. Would I like to go off and buy 100 acres so I could get away from everybody and put up a big giant fence around it and have a gate on my driveway and surveillance just so I can make the world go away? I would totally do that. You know what, you guys? Because I'm an introvert and I really don't like the neighbors too close to me. I don't like it when the neighbors come by with their dogs and they let their dogs crap all over my lawn. I get very, very irritated. But I know that it's not this patch of land and what I have that I'm trying to run away from. It's some of the things that surround me that I'd rather run away from. But it's easier for me to stay here with the devil that I know, knowing that I have a pot of gold here that I live on. This is like the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. My little half an acre is a pot of gold. It was a farm, it's fertile land, it's growing for us. So we're able to do what we know we can manage. Now, we're not planting too many crops, we're not planting things that we don't eat, we're not making too many experiments. We have some experiments going on, but we're not just throwing our money away and saying, well, I'll never learn, I'm scared to grow this, but I'm just gonna grow it anyway, and now I have attracted these bugs that I've never seen in my life. I don't know what to do with them. I don't wanna eat this food because it's infested. I'm scared to go out into the garden. I'm scared of the bugs. I'm scared that I realize there's snakes. I'm scared of the mice. I'm scared of all the things. Look, folks, if you're scared to get your hands dirty, don't spend all of your money on a bunch of land and run off into nowhere and think that there's some answers out there that are just going to magically be there. This is a learning curve, and we are forever students of the garden. Again, we've been doing this for a while, and we're still learning every single day, every day. And we're trying to do it in the most peaceful way possible. So one of the things that we discovered here as we started to grow this garden was that, wow, fear will make you run into the darkness, and fear will make you run into things sometimes when you really don't know what you're doing, and you just complicate your life all that much more. So something I want to say to you, for you guys who are saying that you did it scared, I want to say that you did it brave. You did it brave, and now you're standing there saying, well, everyone, we think we have to give up on our homesteading dreams, and we don't think this is going to work out for us. I want you to just take a minute and take a deep breath, because look how far you came. You managed to acquire a piece of land and you have some sort of a plan. Sometimes things just get in the way. You have to slow down and take a breath, and you have to let the land speak to you and give you the answers. You're not going to find them all on the internet. You're not going to find them all on chat groups on Facebook and Instagram. For those of us who are on YouTube and we're trying to encourage you and motivate you, what I want to say to you is, when you are going to do something and you're scared, stop for a moment. Place fear into the passenger seat and let fear speak to you about what could happen if I do this. Fear will give you some kind of an answer. Again, if you're polarized and you're so afraid you can't get out of your house, you're living in a one-bedroom place, but you can afford to go off and buy more land, I want you to talk to other people, take it into consideration what could happen, who your neighbors might be, what kind of pests you're dealing with, what the climate is like, how much money you're going to need to operate on for a year if you didn't have a job. Could you imagine if you throw everything to the wind and you go off and buy all kinds of land, and you have to pay property tax, you have to pay for equipment, you have to pay for your resources? What if you lost your job and your animals need grain and you can't get water to them? What are you going to do? Let fear talk to you about that, because fear's going to tell you, you better make sure you know where you can get water. You better make sure you know where you can get your building material. You better make sure that you have a year's worth of money in your savings account in case there's no other source of income. The garden is not going to grow a money tree for you. Now, I don't mean to be condescending, but again, this is me shaking your shoulders a little bit and saying, hold on. If you're sick of corporate America and you want to run away and run into the homesteading dream, you can do it. You really can. But just take a minute, take a deep breath, think about what's going to happen, and go into it mindfully. Do it with fear in your passenger seat. So anyway, you guys, I'll be touching on this more in video as I go along. I don't want to inundate you with too much chattiness, but you can find success. And success isn't usually found, it's made. So I want you to think about making your way, not finding your way. And when you look at a piece of land, if you're going to run off and start the homesteading dream, or even if you're just in the early stages and you're just starting to cultivate your dream and you're saying, I'm scared as hell, but I'm going to leave my suburban house and I'm going to run off and build a homestead. I'm going to harvest my own meat. I'm going to harvest my own vegetables. I want you to think about something, you guys, even if you're vegetarians and you're talking about having chickens. Be prepared. Your chickens are going to need to be cold. We don't have birds on this property besides our parrots. Would I like to have chickens? I would love to have my own eggs every day. I would love, love, love it, because I hate hearing what's happening with factory farming of animals. Watch a movie called Food Inc. It's an eye-opener. There's so many movies out there now about living a green life and what's happening with factory farmed animals. It's horrifying. You know, and as a vegetarian, I encourage people, if you really feel like you have to eat meat and you're growing it on your own and you have the strength and spirit to give this animal a name, cuddle up with it, love it, and then expect it to lay down so you can bleed it and then eat it. I'm not judging you. Hey, I'm just saying that is not my cup of tea. But so that's why we don't have chickens here. And I would love to, but I cannot cull an animal. So I want you to think about that if you're thinking about bringing animals onto a piece of property, what's going to be required from you as a shepherd, not just a steward of the land, but as a shepherd. It's all really, really hard work. Your hands are going to get dirty. You're going to touch a bug. You're going to touch some level of some sort of poop. You know, forget about painting your nails, ladies. If you like to go get your nails done, if you like wearing your hair pretty, your clothes are going to get dirty. I like to watch a few social influencers that are mainly located in the UK, and they have beautiful gardens, and they come out in white dresses and they garden, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to be doing that, because one swipe of pollen from your tomato plants, or you get a little bit of tomato tar on there. Look, I'm not trying to, you know, get into disposable clothing that's polluting the earth. That's a whole other video too. So anyway, I want you to think about the fact of how dirty you're going to have to get as you do things, and what fears it is that you can conquer, and what fears you really should be facing. And what I would say to you first, and again, I'm not big on giving too much advice really. I'm just telling you what we do and what works for us. And working this half an acre and eliminating all of the grass, the needy lawn grass that suburbia is so used to saying. We're making this work for us, and we're using it to its maximum. And you know what, you guys? I'm not really scared of it anymore. I'm not scared to get dirty. I'm not scared. I'm brave and I'm strong, and I'm learning that I'm capable of doing things that I never imagined that I was going to do as I grew up as a child in the inner city of Philadelphia, living paycheck to paycheck in my parents' home, and we really just didn't have much. And fresh food was a dream that my mother talked about from when she was a child, and she would get to go to a farm because she was raised in a Catholic orphanage, and in the summers they went off to a farm and had fresh food. That was the only thing I knew really about totally fresh food. Any vegetables that were cooked in my mother's house came from cans or boxes in the freezer. Nothing fresh. So anyway, I never imagined that I would get here. I never imagined that I wouldn't be afraid to touch dirt and stick my hands in where there were spiders and bugs climbing around. But again, I put fear in the passenger seat of my vehicle, and I drove off to success with it. I drove off to bravery, and here we are. We're growing a beautiful garden, and I know you can too. So if you're thinking about doing this, guys, make sure you have a good plan. Stick to it. Please make sure you have money saved away and that you have your resources and you know what you'll do in the event that things change for you so much that you have to make some big decisions. So anyway, guys, please subscribe to our channel, and hopefully you enjoy these kinds of chats, and I sure hope to see you in the next video.